Sorry.
And here we go. Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. Across the table from me is Ted Coley. Say hi, Ted Coley.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Okay, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fabuloso. What is Beacon of Speech, you ask? Beacon of Speech is we are selling freedom of speech to everybody. Except for John Kerry. I'm still mad at John Kerry. Because he said that we do not need to know about terrorism. We're cool if the media just wouldn't report it.
Yeah, I still can't believe you said that.
Yeah, again, he should have known better. Now, I understand if other people say, like, say you're a talk show host or something, and you say, oh, well, it would be, there's lots of irresponsible talk show hosts, right? But he's Secretary of State, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that was one of the things, our guest writer on Beacon of Speech this week was John Kerry. So it was very nice of him to submit a little paragraph for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, so his problem isn't all the terrorism, it's just that it's being reported.
Yeah. So everybody gets freedom of speech today, except for John Kerry. He's suspended. He doesn't get freedom of speech this week. He gets to reapply with Commissioner Fred to see if he gets his freedom of speech back. Okay, this is like the second time in 3 weeks where I had a major error. And so let's start there. Last week we were talking about Kayla Mueller. I kept calling her Katie Mueller. Now, the reason I bring this up, and we'll start from the beginning, because I had two factual errors. One was her name was Katie, and it's not, it's Kayla. And the other factual error was her boyfriend, they let the boyfriend go. He was Syrian, she was American. They captured them both. They kept her prisoner. ISIS kept her prisoner, right? They let the boyfriend go. He did leave, okay? They said, see you later, and he's like, okay. But in his defense, he tried to sneak back in, and they captured him.
This is in Syria?
Yeah, this is in Syria. So the boyfriend
and they were both over there doing humanitarian
work. And that's where we're going to start today. So I want to make sure I get the errors all the way. It's Kayla, not Katie. And number two, the boyfriend did go back and try and get her. They captured him a second time. And basically...
And they said, what did we tell you?
Ted, that's exactly right. They said, what did we tell you? And they said, are you a good Muslim? And he said, well, yes, I'm a good Muslim. I do this, this, and this. And they said, well get out of here. Get out of here and don't...
He really is a Muslim?
Yeah. And they said, get out of here and don't come back.
And this is ISIS who's telling him?
Yeah. And they're like, we don't want to kill a good Muslim. So you go back. And he's like, I'm not leaving without, Kayla. And they said, no, you're leaving. Will you get out of here? Right? We are keeping the American for leverage, right? For money, leverage, whatever you want to say. So said,
what is her boyfriend like Joey G or something?
No, but I feel bad because I said they let him go and he said, see you later. And he did the first time, but then he came back. He just said, see you later, so he could come back and sneak back and get her. So in his defense, he did try and get her back. And then the second time, they said, listen, don't be coming back. We're being serious with you. And he said, oh, hey, the second time he's like, well, let's let the international, And supposedly the group Doctors Without Borders was brokering the peace between ISIS and the Muellers and the U.S. government, and they dropped the ball. And so, but that's where we're going to start today. So let's go with the correction. So the right story is they were both captured. ISIS sent the boyfriend, they released him twice. And then everything else we said was more or less right. So
now,
let's pick up there.
Do you know when Kayla Mueller and her boyfriend first went over to Syria? Do you know? Was the Civil War already going on when they went over there? Or?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So it was dangerous when they went over there.
Yeah, when they went over there,
it's not like they went over there and then it became ISIS.
They said, we love the people of Syria. We are good. We are doing the work of a higher power.
Wow, you have to be.
Now, this is where we're going to start. I said I do not know what religion Kayla Mueller was. And I still stand by that. But to me, it doesn't matter what religion she was. When she was captured, okay, they beat her, they raped her, they did horrible, horrible things to her, right? One of the things that she did was the ISIS guys would parade her in front of the other prisoners and said, listen, Kayla converted, and you guys should convert too. And she said, no, I didn't. I'm a good Christian, right? So for that act, she should be considered for sainthood, right? Because she was putting her faith on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to tie in, but we're going to go in a big circle, okay? Now, I speculated that they should make her a saint just for that. Now, I asked on the air, can they make Kayla Mueller a saint?
Fred, there's a process.
Yes, Ted, that's it's funny that you say that. There is a process, and I knew some of it, but I didn't have it all memorized. Okay? And it's ironic because last week we were talking about it. Mother Teresa is becoming a saint. And just by coincidence, it said, what did Mother Teresa have to do to become a saint? Because she's officially becoming a saint this year. It's going to be Saint Mother Teresa. And of course, the people at CNN said, well, we talked to some people in India and we don't think Mother Teresa is a saint. So let me put it this way. I'm going to ask you. You don't know Mother Teresa, right? You never met her.
No.
But from your knowledge, she should be a saint, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about her, but just, the general things that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's not surprising to me that she's becoming a saint.
Right. And it's the same thing with me. I'm not surprised at all. I remember she died on the same day as Princess Diana, and I have an irrational hatred of Princess Di. Like, all she was like a hot girl who married a prince, and then, like...
It's pretty rare for somebody to become a saint, right? They don't give that out.
Very rare.
Okay.
Very rare.
I guess that's why even when I heard that she was becoming a saint, it did kind of surprise me because, all the saints you hear about are from
the 12th century. Yeah. They stoned you or they cut your skin off.
Well, let's put it this way. Who was the most recent saint?
They just had a saint from America from like the 1700s.
And she's like the next one after that?
Oh, no, in America.
No, I mean like
I think the last saint is don't quote me on it because I have not brushed up on this. But do you remember the miracle of Fatima, like in 1912, where the Virgin Mary came down and saw the 3 kids?
Yeah.
I think one of those Fatima kids is a saint. I think that might have been the last one. So yeah, that'd be like 80 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, now wait a minute. Isn't John Paul, isn't he a saint?
He's in the pipeline behind Mother Teresa. I think they're like in this. You know how when they elect people for the Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
I think Mother Teresa's on this ballot, and the next ballot is John Paul. You see what I'm saying? Like they're in the same pipeline.
Wow, it's interesting.
Oh, well, I don't know how interesting. But the point of my story is that Mother Teresa's becoming a saint. CNN ran an article this week, Mother Teresa not a saint to everyone. And I guess there's some people in India who said, oh no, she wasn't a saint. Her clinics were like third world hospitals and they barely did sanitation.
Well, now, does John Kerry think we should be reporting this? Or?
Probably not. But I couldn't get over that the week that they want to make Mother Teresa a saint, that they're saying, oh no, which goes to show anything you do in life, you're going to have critics. She's about to become a saint and people are criticizing her on CNN, which shows you which way CNN, you know how CNN is like, oh no, we're not leaning to the left. It just shows how far to the left that they lean, that they have critics of Mother Teresa on. Okay? But let's circle back. So in the article about Mother Teresa, they said, oh, she had her critics. She wasn't just a saint. But I'm like, well, yeah, she was. But at the end of the article, and let me plug this in because I don't have our charger in. It says, how do you become a saint? There's a process. And you made a joke. Fred Hunt is a process. But it is. Now, I don't know. Maybe I should nominate Kayla. Okay? Kayla Mueller. Here's step number 1. The church examines candidates for good deeds. Church examines candidates for good deeds and evidence of virtue. Okay, so the Pope, he is like the last in the line. So basically, your diocese, it would be the Cleveland diocese. I don't know where Kayla Mueller's from. Okay, but say she was from Cleveland. I could go to my bishop and say, I think Kayla Mueller should be a saint. And they'd be like, well, we can check that out. Okay? And they would review it. And they would say, did she live a virtuous life? Blah, 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 blah. That's step 1. Step 2, the bishop now gathers information. He talks to you. He talks to me. He talks to other people in the parish. He talks to people who knew her in Syria. He talks to all these people. And he's gathering a folder, right? He's gathering a folder so he can submit the candidate to the Vatican. So we're only on step 2. There's 8 steps. Okay? Now, once they submit it to the Vatican, we want Kayla Mueller to be, and they did this with Mother Teresa. They've been doing this with saints for 2,000 years. Okay? The Congregation for the Causes of Saints scrutinizes the candidate's case. Basically, they pretend like you're running the U.S. government. You have a caucus of cardinals who are reviewing the case. And they're like, oh, well, they got this, we got this bishop from Cleveland. Here's the case. This is why we think this case doesn't work or why it does work. We can't send every Tom, Dick, and Harry up to the Pope. The Pope is busy. Right? We can't send up 10,000 candidates. We got to weed those candidates out.
The Pope has a lot on his plate.
The Pope has a lot on his plate. He can't be working on saints all day. Okay? So, step 4. The Congregation for the Causes of Saints, which I had never heard of before today. I knew there was a process. I know this was the process. They have to approve the case, and they take a vote, just like...
Who approves it?
Now you're antagonizing me.
The
Congregation for the Causes of Saints. The Congregation for the Causes of Saints, and they're like a congressional subcommittee. Right?
See, I'm already getting confused.
Yeah. So, well, that's the whole thing. Ted, nothing in this world is easy anymore. Right? So the congregation approves the case, or they can reject the case. They can send it back to the bishop and say, don't waste our time. Right? So it goes to the Pope. Now, I don't know how many people are in, and I have to read it. I don't know how many people are in the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, but they either vote yay or nay. Right? It's a majority vote. I don't think it has to be unanimous. Right? And again, this is from CNN, and, I already made my feelings on them clear. Step 5, the Pope decides if the candidate has lived a virtuous life. At the end of the day, the Pope is the closest thing to God. He is the final rubber stamp. Is that true?
I would imagine, yeah.
He is the last human rubber stamp. Now, I just got something from the kitchen. They're making fun of me. Step 6.
Last human. What's the step after that? Do they have to do the smoke through the chimney?
No. The individual is beatified. So the Pope beatifies you and says, you're on your way to becoming a saint. Okay? Now, they have to confirm, and we'll use the Mother Teresa example. Somebody has to pray to Mother Teresa, and then a miracle occurs, and it has to be documented. So once the Pope says, okay, the process is complete, she is good enough, now they're waiting for miracles, confirm the miracles. So number 6 is Mother Teresa performed a miracle after she was dead. Because somebody prayed to Mother Teresa and then a miracle happened.
Oh, I heard it. Is this the guy who had a brain disease? And
I believe so, yeah. Because I did hear
and
that
he
case.
prayed to her. This was after she died.
After she died, he prayed to Mother Teresa and his brain disease cleared up. But there's, for like people like Mother Teresa and John Paul II, there's lots of people, literally 1 billion people pray to him, right? So it's not that, it's these obscure saints that you never heard of that, you have to try and figure out whether they performed the miracle after they were dead. So these people say, we prayed to Mother Teresa and our brain cancer went away. Okay, there's one. That's step 6. The church has to confirm it, and I'm unclear whether the bishop sends an investigative committee or let's return to it, blah, 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 the Congregation for the Causes of Saints. That's step 6. What do you think step 7 is?
What is step 7?
Yeah, there's another step past one
After
miracle.
confirming the miracle?
After confirming one miracle. Step 7.
I don't know.
Canonization occurs once a second miracle is verified. So you have to have 2 miracles after you die that you perform. So the guy with brain cancer
That's
would
only
be
one.
Yeah, so somewhere in the world, somebody prayed to Mother Teresa, they were cured, and they would be the confirmed second person. And I know that John Paul II, people were, like, tons of people were praying to him, and they said that part wasn't a problem. So apparently John Paul II made some enemies on earth. He was having trouble with earlier steps. So
I mean, how did they know that that's what cured? You know what I mean? How do they know that's what cured the?
Well, that's another beacon of speech for another day, because I don't know what the threshold is. You know what I mean? If they had terminal brain cancer and then they were cured, they said, well, it's a miracle. Well, who did you pray to? I prayed to 6 different people. Well,
Yeah, I'd be praying to like everybody.
yeah, I'm not praying to that guy and that girl over there. So that part is unclear. And I'm
Yeah,
sure.
why would you put all your eggs in one basket?
Yeah, well, what if Mother Teresa's busy? You want to put it in the John Paul II basket. So that is steps. What was that in there?
Oh dear.
I'm getting smart alecky comments from this. So step 8 is the candidate is now a saint. Okay? But it's a very long process, and it takes years and years. Mother Teresa died. We'll double back to Lady Di. I wasn't a big fan of Princess Di, but she died on the same day as Princess Diana.
It was the same day?
Same day, because I remember the headline. It said, all the way across the front of Plain Dealer, Princess Diana dead. There's a big picture splashed on, big headlines. And then in the very corner, in a small box in the lower left or right-hand corner, there's a tiny little picture, maybe about the size of a $50, said, oh, Mother Teresa too. Right? And I just remember thinking, who really did better work for the world? You know what I'm saying? Who was the better person? Because now that Lady Di's, or I'm sorry, I keep saying Lady Di because that's an Alice Donut song, right? But
Well, that's what she was at first.
yeah. But Princess Di, after she died, they were talking about all of her affairs, and she would like sneak men in, and she would just meet them at the door in just like a robe and just go crazy. And it's like, because she didn't have a job. She was the princess. Her job was to be the princess. She and every time her husband left, she was sneaking guys in, and every time he left, he was sneaking off with Camilla Bowles, right? And while Mother Teresa is healing the sick in Calcutta, right? Everybody's like, we love Lady Di. She doesn't want landmines in Vietnam. Well, that's great. I don't want landmines in Vietnam either, but, I think me and her probably did about the same amount of work on it. Mother Teresa, she was getting her hands dirty with the lepers and the poor. I'm not sure how many landmines Princess Di was scraping out of the war fields when she was doing all that landmine work. I'm sorry, Ted's got a smirk on his face. Princess Di, I'm more of a big picture person. I'm more of a raise awareness.
Well, no, I'm still thinking about praying to somebody, and I'm thinking you pray to one person, and if that doesn't work, you go to the next person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I pray to St. Anthony when I can't find my keys.
My wife said she prays to Saint Anthony when she can't find her keys. But but see, he's already a saint, so you can't make him a saint.
But maybe somebody was praying for their keys before.
Yeah.
Is Saint Anthony the one who helps you find things?
Yeah, Tony, look around. Something's lost and must be found.
I thought it was Christopher.
Oh, I don't
He's
know.
the sick.
Oh, he's the sick?
Yeah.
So the process of becoming a saint is very long and arduous. And if you're obscure, it's hard to become a saint because nobody knows to pray to you. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Ted is...
So, in other words, Mother Teresa has to have one more miracle and then...
Oh, no, she's good. She got the second miracle.
Oh, she got the second one?
Yes, and that's what the story was about. And again, it's a process that they can't point.
Well, what was the second one?
They said it, I just don't remember. But, so she got the second one, and that's why I was upset that CNN ran this article, and they're like, oh, no, she was in deplorable conditions. And it's like, well, yeah. Like, one of the stories was supposedly Mother Teresa.
Isn't that like part of what made her a saint? Was
Yeah.
that she was operating?
She was in the dirtiest, worst slums of all of India, and they didn't have any access, so some of their equipment was dirty.
Yeah.
And they said she had dirty equipment. She should have got clean equipment. And it's like, you're in the slums. And they're like, well, she raised $100 million. And I'm like, well, if she's in the slums, she can't... There's got to be a middleman between the millions of dollars and the slums. You know what I mean? So if Mother Teresa was not good at business, where she knew how to, organize and streamline things, I don't blame her for that. She's busy doing other stuff. So I thought it was an unfair criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, well, she wasn't a businesswoman. She wasn't a... Yeah, she was a saint. That's why she wasn't a businesswoman.
So they're saying she wasn't well-rounded.
Yeah, she wasn't well-rounded. She didn't have a good grasp. I think the word they used was she didn't have a good grasp on organizational skills. And it's like, so now you're criticizing a saint. Right? And again, this is all in the CNN story. And that's why it's just baffling to me. Ted's shaking his head. Do you want to nominate anybody to be a saint today, Ted?
No. Nobody leaps to mind.
Nobody's leaping to mind. So,
Or how about Ricky Williams?
Saint Ricky Williams wanted to get high. Oh, so back to Kayla Mueller. Somebody's got to nominate her, and then somebody's got to pray to her because she's dead. And she had chances to escape. And again, let's just say she's Methodist, right? Well, it's going to be hard to get her traction in the Catholic Church. You see what I'm saying? And you still have to get her name out there so people would know to pray to her.
So we don't know of any miracles from her yet.
No, we don't know of any miracles from her. But like I said, I read that story and I'm like, holy cow. She's the closest to somebody contemporary. Because Mother Teresa, she died... How long ago did Princess Di die?
It was 97.
So they both have been dead for 20 years. So I'm trying to think of somebody contemporary within like the last 5 years or so that you hear about.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think it was around this time of year.
I think so, yeah.
It was either August or September. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it nice that we got such a nice upbeat topic today? Ted was supposed to be off for Labor Day weekend, and he ended up working today. So he's still in his uniform, right, Ted?
Yes.
So you are dedicated.
So you didn't think that you were going to work today, right?
No.
You were supposed to be completely off.
Yes, I thought I was doing training today, but I work, so that's fine. I need to work.
Oh,
So-
but you were going to be training? So
Yeah,
you
I thought
wouldn't-
I was going to be. My training is unpaid, but my work is paid. And then when I get my CDL, then everything is paid. So,
Okay, so you were going to, originally you were going to go in this morning for training.
correct. But then I worked. So yeah, so I have a job. So I don't know if I specifically prayed to a saint for a job though. So I just said I need to work, and I found a job. Are you proud of me, Ted?
Yeah.
Ted's happy that I got a job that pays. The Olympics are over. And I had a Sports Illustrated, right? And I was surprised because I like to.
Is that the one you can't find?
Yeah, that's the one I can't find. And I like to bitch about how things are like totally wrong. Like you're supposed to be experts and you're totally wrong. Sports Illustrated had a Rio preview, right? And Rio came and went, and I'm looking after the fact, and they were right a lot. I'm like, how can they predict what's going to happen in Rio, like so closely? Well, like they predicted the Americans would win gold in basketball. Well, yeah, because they won the last 7. The Chinese, they're going to win in ping pong. Yeah, because they win everything in ping pong. The divers, the Chinese divers are going to win. Yeah, because ever since Beijing, they win every diving thing. The American women, they said they were going to win in women's basketball, right? There was very few things that they were wrong about. I think they were wrong about the U.S. women's soccer team, like way wrong. But for literally 200 events, I'm like, how can they be right all the time? But then I'm thinking, well, they know because they can see all the scores, right? So if you can swim the 200 meters in whatever seconds, and you're coming into the Olympics, you're probably not going to improve or disprove that much from the Olympic trials. And I'm like, well, I guess. But I was still very impressed with how right they were. And since I'm always bitching about how wrong people are, I have to give kudos to Sports Illustrated. But if I would have asked Ted, who do you think is going to win in men's basketball
No,
in the Olympics?
I would have said us.
Yeah, you would have said it. So some things I think was kind of a slam dunk in the Olympics. Ted, in the 100 meters, what Jamaican do you think is going to win? Who won the last 2?
Oh, is that, what's his name?
Usain Bolt. Yeah. So I mean, some of them were like shooting.
He's Jamaican?
Yeah. Oh, we got the Ricky Williams Sports Illustrated from when Ricky Williams was smoking pot. So we got Usain Bolt, Ricky Williams. We were talking about this on last week in a speech. So yeah, it says Beijing, London, and then it says Rio. The Olympics will again belong to Usain Bolt. But what's more impressive is, dear wife, cover your ears. Afterwards, as soon as he won his 3rd consecutive medal, supposedly he is either engaged or his girlfriend is this really good-looking Brazilian girl, right? And she's like an exotic dancer or something. And I'm reading the Daily Mail every day after he won his 3rd set of medals at Rio, and they're like, Usain Bolt in the motel with 3 different women. The next day, Usain Bolt with 6 different women. And I'm like, holy cow. And they said they were literally rotating women into... And the Daily Mail is just out there taking pictures of him going into his room and stuff. And I'm like, holy cow. And they said, Usain Bolt is fast at other things too. And it was like, for 5 to 7 days, I've read all about him and his antics in Rio. And I'm like, holy cow, this guy, he's quite a athlete there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing chuckles in the back. But back in the day, you didn't read that stuff about the Olympic athletes. Like, I remember when I was a kid, in 1980, I think it was, Eric Heiden, he was a speed skater. He won like 5 golds.
Right.
And I said, I want to be Eric Heiden. I want to be a speed skater in Cleveland, Ohio. Well, guess what? That never happened, right? But I don't know. Maybe Eric Heiden was doing that in the 80 Olympics in Lake Placid.
Yeah, Lake Placid, yeah.
So, but yeah, I was really surprised at how much run he was getting. And they had like some girls taking selfies from inside his room, so you know that it wasn't just the Daily Mail, you know, slandering somebody. And what they would do is they'd take the selfie in bed with Bolt, and then they post it to Instagram or Facebook.
Oh, they would have his picture. He would be in there too.
Yeah, the two of them in
Yeah.
bed, and then they'd post it to social media, and then the news media would pick it up. So it wasn't just the Daily Mail in his motel room watching the girls coming in and out, like up and down the elevator, in and out of his room. The girls from inside are like, Usain Bolt, I was with Usain Bolt, and they post on social media. You know, back in the 80s, there was no social media. But that guy, he's parlaying his golds in, you know, quite a conquest list there. See, now Ted's jealous. Now, don't you wish you were Eric Heiden?
No, I'm just thinking, you know, social media is a blessing and a curse.
Oh, yeah, it's the double-edged sword. Jim Rome, the sports guy, we were talking about him before we started.
And I'm also thinking Usain Bolt probably won't be up for sainthood.
Oh, no. No, I don't. But you know what? I remember when I have my minors in religious studies, right? They talked about St. Augustine, and they said he was the worst of the worst. You know, he was a womanizer. He didn't murder anybody, but he gambled, he drank, all the vices he took part of. And then when he was like in his 30s, he found God, and then he became a saint, right? And St. Augustine is one of the most well-respected saints ever. Well, it's easy to convert when you're in your 30s. You had all your fun.
Yeah.
Especially back in those days. You know what I mean? I'm 34. My life expectancy is 36.
Yep.
You know, I'm converting. But then he lived for 30 more years and did great works. And I'm not picking on St. Augustine. You know, he's not going to apparently give me any miracles for slandering him. Well, we got somebody's barking at the door. But
Okay, come on.
so St. Augustine, you know, not everybody is Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, I did not get the impression that she had a wild youth. Oh, on 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I had to pause because the dog was going crazy. I couldn't even hear Ted, so I apologize. Thank you for grabbing the dog. I got a thumbs up. You could probably still hear him in the background, like a bad soundtrack. But to my knowledge, Mother Teresa did not find the Lord at 34. Everything I saw was that she was, you know, she joined the convent when she was 20 or whatever, and then she was healing the sick in India. And again, another thing that's very impressive about her is she was in Calcutta, in India. You know, those are not hotbeds of Catholicism. You know what I'm saying? So she was really out on the ledge. She was right on the edge of humanity.
What are they generally Hindu?
Yeah, I think it's mostly Hindu in India.
Yeah.
We worship the cow. So that's why she found the sickest. And I remember, and I hate to talk about this because it wasn't me, but Rush Limbaugh, and it always stuck with me. And he goes, one of the things that people don't realize in America, and at the time, I remember I was going to Cleveland State, okay? Rush Limbaugh goes, poor people in America are not like poor people in India. He goes, in India, they're walking skeletons, flies landing on you, you know, Ethiopia, India. That's true poverty. He said, in America, if you drive through the slums of an American city, you see nice cars, you see satellite dishes. And at the time, I was going to Cleveland State University, cutting through one of the, you know, ghettos, and I was looking, and I'm like, yeah, satellite dishes. These people have, their cars are as nice as my car, right? And I was a college student, right? And I didn't see anybody so poor that they were on the corner literally starving to death. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And most of the people I did see in Cleveland, they weren't starving, but, you know, there was a lot of homeless, like veterans, you know, crazy. We're talking at the walls, right? But they were not India impoverished. So that's another thing. When they say she was working in India, that, you know, that's not even like working on the east side of Cleveland.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't have the intestinal fortitude for that. Between talking about CNN and St. Augustine and our topic today, I don't think either one of us are becoming saints.
Oh no, not even close.
But see, you do not have a wife, so you are living the chaste life. So you were halfway there.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Now you can. Do we want to send out a call? With one of our next episode, it's what is it on Rover's Morning Glory? Hook up hotties on Thursday or whatever. Any ladies, they're more than welcome to send pictures to Ted.
Is any one of our 8 listeners?
You know, if we get more listeners, if we actually get a radio program, that'll have to be one of our first shows. What are our we have to write down our qualifications. Wait a second, because I don't want to pick on you.
Dial a date.
Ted's dial a date, right? We got to make sure that they are drug free and less than 3 children.
Less than 3.
And younger than you. We're both in our 40s. So, how come you're not setting Ted up with any dates, Crystal?
Does he like horse people? That's all I know right now.
A lot of people my wife works with, they're from the outskirts of Lorain County. So a lot of them are farmers. So you would have to drive a ways from Garfield Heights out to the rural section of Lorain County. Yeah. They're farmers and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the haul. So from your house to where they live, hour 15 minutes.
Could I just do the date like while I'm on my route?
No, your boss says
apparently you can get in trouble for
your boss says you are not allowed to leave the beaten path of your route. So, Ted, I tried to help you out. I tried to help you out with that one, and I won't say it on the air, but that one lady at the school district that we used to deliver to. 042.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I tried to help you out there, but that girl couldn't settle down with just one guy.
Well, she told me she has enough boyfriends. So.
Ted, you can never have enough boyfriends. I remember I was watching. It was I think it was The Soup with Joe McHale, and he was making fun of sister wives, and it's the guy from Utah, and he's got 4 wives, and they were on a press junket, right? And one of the people stood up and they said, you know, how can you justify this? And she said, well, it's my religion. My religion is the man provides, and he can a successful man can have as many brides as he wishes. And then the audience member said, well, does that go for a successful woman? Could she have as many husbands, you know, as she wants if she's successful? And she goes, oh, Lord, no. She goes, the Lord doesn't approve of that at all. And I'm like, yeah, that's why that's a scam, you know, right there.
I see something.
Kevin just came back from his self-imposed
from
exile of barking. But yeah, so your friend at the old place, she was just a reverse Mormon, right? She was like, all she had to do was start her own religion and say, I believe that my religion says I can have as many boyfriends as I like, and then we're cool.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said that she has enough boyfriends. So.
See, we're not only are we being blasphemous on that way, but we're working on starting our own religion. I think that's a horrible religion. I don't know. My wife is probably thinking I could use an extra husband or two, but yeah, that's something totally different.
042.
Yes. So now we have dead air, Ted. So what was our next topic? Oh, I remember. I had to do 5 minutes I had to do a 5-minute spiel. There was a radio station who will remain nameless, and they wanted a 5-minute sample tape. And one of my 2 5-minute sample tapes, okay, one of them had to do with John Kerry because he pissed me off. That's why we're not going to dawdle on that. And the second thing was Rolling Stone came out with the top 45 albums of the year. Okay?
Now, wait a minute. You said one of the 5-minute samples you sent in was about John Kerry?
Yes. Because literally I talked about it and sent it in.
Okay, that wasn't on our show, or?
No. I had to do a 5-minute
Okay.
unique sample. So, but the other sample that I used, right? Rolling Stone had the 45 top albums of 2016, right? Now, what do you know about contemporary music, Ted Coley?
Almost nothing.
Name somebody popular right now.
Somebody popular right now?
Yes.
I don't know, Justin Bieber?
Kinda, yeah. Okay, you
Is
can
he?
name, yeah. So you can name one person. Rolling Stone had the 45 top albums of the year. How many do you think you would be able to name, seeing you think Justin Bieber is basically the... Think of somebody who released an album this year that you could name. And of course, this is a trick question. I'm going to spin it around and...
No, wait a minute. I can't think of her name.
Katy Perry.
I got Katy Perry from
the studio.
no
audience.
Katy Perry from the studio audience.
I can't think of her name.
You're thinking
Taylor
of
Swift.
Taylor Swift. She was not on there. I don't think she released anything. I think hers was last year. I thought you were thinking of Beyonce.
Yeah, okay, Beyonce.
Beyonce released one, right? Now, a band that you might know is Radiohead. They had one of the top. Okay. The reason I bring this up is
Radiohead, is that Tom York? Is that his name?
yes.
He's the singer.
Yeah, lead singer. And I like Radiohead, but their best stuff is a ways in the past. But okay, that's fine. We'll give them Radiohead. Okay. What year is this again, Ted?
2016.
Let's see if I can name all 8 of the bands I was offended by. One was the Monkees.
The Monkees.
Yeah. Well, I'm not offended, but I find it hard to believe that the Monkees released one of the top 45 albums of the year.
The Monkees from the 60s?
From the 60s. Davy Jones is dead.
Yes.
So it would be Mickey Dolenz, Peter Tork, and Michael Nesmith. Michael Nesmith part-time. Okay? Now, the one I do agree with is Black Star by David Bowie. You know, that was his I Know I'm Gonna Pass. I listened to it, and it was a jazzy David Bowie, but it was really dark. It was really depressing. But it wasn't bad. You see what I'm saying? Third guy, Paul Simon.
I know him.
Did you go out and buy the Paul Simon?
No.
Grateful Dead cover album. I guess they asked all these young singers.
We're moving on from Paul Simon?
Yeah, because I don't want to talk about Paul Simon.
Okay.
Paul Simon, but you know who he is.
Yeah.
They had various folk artists from today cover the Grateful Dead, and that was one of the top albums of the year. And I'm like, no, it's not. Okay? It's just not. I haven't heard it, and I know it's not. Okay? Because it's, you know, crappy folk bands that suck on their own. Okay? Elton John. Do you think Elton John had one of the top 45 albums of the year?
Yeah.
I'm going to argue with you and say no, he didn't. It was 8 people from the 60s and 70s, and I was stunned. I didn't know any of them were putting out music. One of them, lead singer of the Jay Giles Band.
Peter Wolf.
Peter Wolf put out a solo album. And I'm like, Peter Wolf has one of the top albums of the year. I find that very hard to believe. Ted's shaking his head again.
So these were the top 45, did you
Yes.
say?
Yeah, the top 45 albums of the year.
And you're naming 8 of them?
Yeah, 8 of them. They weren't in any particular order. And like I said, Beyonce,
They were 8. These 8 that you're naming are the ones that aggravated you?
Oh yeah, they were aggravating. Except
There were only 8?
oh no, there were a
aggravated
lot
you?
more than 8. Okay, but I'm talking about bands that you have heard of,
Okay.
right? Now they had like 6 country artists. Well, no country artist has the top album of the year. I'm prejudiced against country music, so automatically you throw out those 8, except for David Bowie, right? You throw out the country artists. You throw out the rap artists. Okay, they had like 10 of the top album. I'm like, there's no rap. Now, don't get me wrong. Rap artists have good singles. Okay, they have great catchy singles. I can't think of hardly any rap albums that are great. Song 1 to song 15. You know what I mean? Rap albums, they got 2 hits and 13 songs worth of filler. So out of the 45, Rolling Stone was probably right about maybe 12, and it's all this, soft rock BS that I wouldn't like. Now, if you said, Fred, you name the top 45 albums, it'd be punk. I'm getting laughter from the kitchen, but they would be rock, they would be punk, they would be metal, they would be alternative, right? Like maybe the Radiohead album, if I listen to it top to bottom, maybe Radiohead. But I'm like, that's how far. Now, they would turn around and say, oh no, Fred Hunt, you are the one who is out of touch with the music scene. I'm like, no, I'm not the one who put Paul Simon one of the best albums of the year of 2016. I think Paul Simon is 89 years old. And he's not like Johnny Cash, who, tried to reinvent it. As far as I know, Paul Simon's just locked himself up and says, oh, I'll just kick out a song because I got this tune in my head. Let me ask you a question. I give you $20. Ted Coley, you're a handsome young man. Here's $20. Would you even think of buying the new Paul Simon album with that $20?
No.
I said, Ted, you have to take this and buy music with it. Would you buy the new Paul Simon album?
No.
No.
I'd probably buy a Beatles album.
The Beatles did not release any albums. But this week they said that Led Zeppelin is supposedly got some sort of mystery song that came out.
It's a new song?
Yeah, it's a new song. Supposedly they were Jimmy Page was digging through the vaults and they found a song like they found that Beatles song when they did that anthology. You remember that?
Oh, this isn't. They didn't make a new song.
No. They didn't make it.
An unreleased one.
Yes, like after Kurt Cobain died, they found that one and they released it. They released what was it? Free as a Bird.
Yeah.
After George Harrison died.
And
That
well,
Elvis song.
what?
That Elvis song.
The Elvis song?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was an Elvis song that they said. Oh, it's a. So I think they found Jimmy Page was digging through the archives and he found a Led Zeppelin song, and so they are going to release that. Ted just made a face at me, like you're not going.
He just found it now. It's like,
Well, Jimmy Page.
it seems like that's all he does, and has been doing for the past 35 years is revisiting things.
Well, that's the thing. For the last 5 years, apparently Jimmy Page locks himself in the thing and he puts on headsets and he tries to update this stuff. And they said for the last 5 years, Jimmy Page has remastered literally everything they ever touched. And he's like, I'm just waiting for Robert Plant so he could go back out as Led Zeppelin. And we already had this conversation.
Well, that's another thing. How many times has he remastered these things?
Well, that's the thing. He remastered it when they put it on vinyl, and then he remastered it for CD, right? But then I think he retook it and remastered it for digital download. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, again, he's making money. He's working, but he ain't making anything new. And he's like, oh, as soon as Robert's ready to sing. And what was Robert Plant's famous line?
I'm not a jukebox.
I'm not a human jukebox.
And I'm laughing, but there's no bigger fan of Jimmy Page than me.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know. And so I don't mean to pick on you. It's just, if you get a chance, you got to check it. But I just skimmed through it. I don't know if you can download it. I don't know if he has to clean it up. I don't know if they're like, we're not going to release it. Oh, we're only going to release it under this format if you go to like Tidal streaming or whatever. I'm just saying that me and you are out of touch. We're out of touch 40-year-olds. And somehow, magically, we know all these bands on this list. And it just shows how out of touch they are. They're as out of touch as we are, probably more so. I
wonder if Jimmy Page right now, if he has headphones on and he's reading something.
It's fine. We're in Fred's living room, right?
He's probably listening to Stairway to Heaven right
Yeah,
now.
he's remastering Stairway to Heaven in his basement. He's like, honey, I'm trying to remaster Stairway to Heaven.
Turn the dishwasher off.
I'm getting feedback from the dryer. Yeah. So that's where they're at.
But when you think of these guys, you always assume they're doing something profound.
Yeah.
But they're just going over and over the same stuff.
Yeah. And when I did top tens, I did an article about 3 years ago. And it was, when I was a kid, I always wanted bands like the Beatles or Led Zeppelin to get back together.
Yep.
And now that I'm older, I wish they would have stayed broken apart.
Yeah.
Because all they can do is ruin their legacy.
Yep.
Like when Van Halen came back and they just sucked. They're like, we're going to record an album after 30 years. And you find out that for 30 years they had no original ideas.
Yeah.
But again, cancer and I'm not trying to be mean to Eddie Van Halen, but cancer treatment's expensive. You got a tour to pay bills.
Well, he's doing all right now, isn't
Oh,
he?
yeah, he's fine now. But, again, they kicked out Michael Anthony, and then they bring in Wolfgang, and they're like, oh, now instead of splitting the pies, X amount of ways, well, I'll just take Wolfgang's part. And what they probably did is they probably said, Wolfgang gets a sliver, and then the other three get big pieces. And they probably, and I hate to say it, but it was probably a business decision. Wolfgang was cheaper than bringing back Michael Anthony. Michael Anthony doesn't want to hear that, and everything I've ever read about him, he always seemed like a good guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, why would we pay him when we could just pay Wolfgang to stand over there and play the bass?
Well, Michael Anthony is kind of does stuff with Sammy Hagar.
With
right?
Sammy Hagar. Yeah, but you could start your own band of, angry Van Halen members.
I'm still thinking about Jimmy Page.
Well, that's the thing. I was bashing on Princess Diana, right? But again, Jimmy Page should have enough money. He doesn't have to work. You know what I mean? If he's OCD and he wants to remaster them 7 times, I guess he has the availability to do it.
Have you ever heard of anybody remastering things more times than him?
No. It seemed now Trent Reznor, he didn't remaster stuff. I've been reading a lot about Trent Reznor, and literally he's got more remixes and releases. And then something else I read this week, they said Pearl Jam next year, they're going to get inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they said it's almost a slam dunk. And they said every concert's different. The old Grateful Dead thing. Oh, every concert's different. Oh, yeah, whatever, Pearl Jam. Okay? But they said that Pearl Jam has literally released 100 live albums. Because, they played a cover song one time in Argentina. And they're like, well, we released that in Argentina, So I guess they cut off the bootleg. But for a business model, I'm not sure how many people are downloading that. You see what I'm saying? So I know they're kind of obsessive about their live material, and I know Trent Reznor is obsessive about the remixes. But I've never heard of anybody remastering stuff more than Jimmy Page. Seriously. I'm remastering this. And it's funny because, y'all know why he's so wound up today. See, once we have our own studio, Ted, it's going to be a rule: no dogs in the studio.
We'll have to play sound effects of dogs barking.
Well, no, because I read Alternative Press magazine, and they more or less have a pulse on today, right? And I read Consequence of Sound. They more or less got the pulse of today. Spin doesn't really have the pulse of today. They have the pulse of about 10 years ago, right? But I don't know why. But when I'm on Facebook, and again, this is logarithms and stuff. I'll be scrolling through my friends' feeds, right, on Facebook, and all of a sudden it'll say sponsored, and then Rolling Stone will say top 100 guitarists of all time. Well, because I'm a dumb schmuck, right? I'm like, how are they wrong? So I click on Rolling Stone. I'm like, oh, those dumb idiots, right? And it's the same thing. I'm scrolling through I didn't go to the Rolling Stone site. I'm scrolling through Facebook. It says 45 top albums of 2016. I'm like, I wonder how many of these I know. Because for my birthday, I bought a whole ton of music, right? And none of the things I bought was on there, right? I bought Brian Jonestown Massacre. They weren't on there. They should have been on there. A band called Rival Sons. And Rival Sons is like Rolling Stonesy, bluesy rock and roll. I'm like, why aren't Rival Sons on here? You know what I mean?
Brian Jonestown Massacre.
I love Brian Jonestown. I've been listening to them a lot lately, and I think there's something wrong with me. But
that's a great name.
Oh yeah, but they play. The cat's trying to get out now, Crystal. The cat is trying to pull the door open.
You can do it.
But they play psychedelic music like the Jefferson Airplane, but the guy is like crazy out of his mind.
Brian Jonestown Massacre?
Yeah. The lead singer's name's Anton Newcomb. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And in the 90s, he was releasing this music like it was 1968. It sounded like they literally put the guy in a time capsule and shot himself into the 90s. He's releasing albums every 6 months, right? Crazy genius, right? But he couldn't get out of his own way. He was like, when you think of heroin addicts, he was like the worst of the worst, right? Well, after about 8 years, he couldn't get a major label deal because they couldn't even get him on stage. He was fighting with his bandmates. They're all quitting, the old rock and roll story. They made a documentary, one of the best music documentary. If you haven't seen it, you have to go out and watch it. And I'm going to make you watch it one day. It's called Dig, D-I-G, with an exclamation point. And it's all about two bands, the Dandy Warhols and the Brian Jonestown Massacre. And they were friends, and the Dandy Warhols became popular on college radio, and they could make a living at what they were doing. And the Brian Jonestown Massacre was this underground band that never broke through because their lead singer was so strung out on heroin. Well,
is he all right now? Or?
Yeah, about 5 years ago he cleaned up, and now he's gaining weight like me. That's what me and Anton Newcomb have in common, is weight gain. Okay? But he's still releasing this great music that, he's like, oh, I want something to sound like 80s pop music. I want something to sound like psychedelic 60s. And he does what he wants. And I think he just released his 16th album and this year. And I'm like, where's Brian Jonestown Massacre? It's not on the Rolling Stones list. They're awesome. But that Dig, I think I've watched that like 8 times. It's a great documentary. And as me and Ted are talking, there's like animals running by each way. The cat just ran by another way. The animals are very distracting tonight. They must be excited about their Friday night.
Must be excited for the Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, are you doing anything fun for Labor Day?
No, nothing now. I was considering going to Nashville, but I didn't.
Well, I'm sorry. Was your nephew's band? Do you want to promote your nephew's band?
I'm still not sure of their name.
All right, Ted, don't go anywhere because
I believe they're playing in Nashville tomorrow night.
We keep forgetting our predictions. I'm going to pause. I'm going to take 10 steps and walk right back and pull through our predictions real quick. And we're back. So anyhow, I took 10 steps. I'm right back. And hopefully nobody's barking. we were very good with predictions when we were working together. And ever since we came into the house, I've been horrible at predictions.
Yeah, we haven't done any.
Yeah, and so I have to look in our prediction pack, and because I haven't been carrying it around, and see how far we're probably like a month or two behind, or maybe we didn't make any predictions for the summer. Let's look in here. June predictions were caught up. July predictions we were caught up. Oh, we have predictions for August that we did not do. It's like homework. Oh yeah, I thought I turned it in. Oh no, I didn't turn that in.
So these are predictions we made for things that we thought would happen in August? Or?
Yeah. Now, this was made, we were supposed to open this on August 1st. I wonder what this says.
Oh, probably something about the conventions.
Oh, you'll get a kick out of this. At the end of the football season last year, do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
That would be in January, right? In January, we made
that seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It seems like forever ago. In January, Peyton Manning could barely stand up straight. Do you remember that? He still took the Broncos to the Super Bowl. There was a rumor on local radio that if Peyton Manning was not, if the Broncos didn't bring him back, that he would come here and be our quarterback. And this was on WKNR.
And be our quarterback?
Yeah, and be our quarterback for 1 year, and then he would become our GM. Okay? And that would be Aaron Goldhammer, who's an idiot.
He's the one who made that?
He made that, and that would be in January. Okay? And me and you were talking about it. No, he is. He is the worst personality in Cleveland radio. And
I thought you were going to say he's the worst person.
No. Trevisano
is the worst.
No, sometimes he does stuff for ratings. He does hyperbole. He takes the unpopular view, and it's a little bit of shtick. Okay, but Aaron Goldhammer is a genuine idiot. Okay, I'll go on record with that. At the 1 hour, we're marking at the 1 hour.
So you don't think Trevisano's an idiot?
I think some of that is playing an act. I'm not saying he's not an idiot. I'm saying that I think there's a little bit of theatrics. So you think
he's an idiot, but sometimes it's acting.
Yeah, sometimes it's theatrics, right?
He's a theatrical idiot.
Yeah. Aaron Goldhammer was reporting that people in Denver are saying that he might come to the Browns. Okay? Now, me and you, what do you think me and you said? The prediction is Peyton is done. And that was by Fred Hunt, Ted Coley, and Joe Kaufman. Remember Joe Kaufman?
Yes, I remember Joe.
All three of us said Peyton is done and will be retiring. Now, we agreed, and they said the only job that he would have is a celebrity pitchman. We also said, will he be GM of the Browns? Me, you, and Joe Kaufman all said
no.
No. And on August 1st, it was proven that we were right. It was all a media creation. There was no way that Peyton Manning was coming here to be our quarterback. Zero.
And I don't know if I said this at the time. Hopefully I said something like this. He's too smart for that.
Yep. It says in there. It says as a matter of fact, I just threw it in the recycle bin. Let me pull it back up. Ted Coley's exact words, Peyton is too smart to come to the Browns, Ted Coley. Look, right here. It's on the top line. See?
Wait a minute.
But Ted's got to grab his reading glasses. See?
What's the bottom line there?
Oh, no job except for pitchman.
Okay.
And all of us agreed. Because when they brought it up, we all thought it was absurd.
Yeah.
And, sometimes people have... Aaron Goldhammer's from Denver. And he goes, my sources are telling me. I'm like, your sources? You mean your imagination? There is no way that your source is even remotely close to right. And then, of course, not only was he wrong, but he was so wrong, it was pathetic. Because not only did they not go with another GM, Not only did they not go with a former player, they went with Paul DePodesta, who's the Moneyball guy. We hired a GM from baseball. So not only was Aaron Goldhammer wrong, but he was 180 degrees wrong. Like, he didn't have any sources.
Is he still on?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't listen in the afternoons anymore, so I don't know. But hopefully they took him off. Because I'm like, I can't believe you guys are talking about this. Okay, so we recycled that prediction, and then we have this prediction. Fred and Ted, more arrests at the Democrat National Convention than at the RNC. And the reason why, only 250 arrests were in Cleveland. I do not have the answer to this. I just know that that is correct. I did hear that. I don't have the numbers, but they said more people were arrested in Philadelphia than in Cleveland. But I don't know if it was like 251.
And we predicted that?
Yes. We predicted that after the Republican National Convention. After the Republican National Convention, you said, you know what, I think there's going to be more arrests in Philadelphia. And then remember, they had the trouble with the Bernie supporters. Remember, the Bernie supporters went crazy, and they're like, we're underground in Philadelphia, and the Bernie supporters are going crazy.
You don't understand. People are struggling.
Yeah, people are struggling, and you don't understand. So we were right about that, but I don't know what the numbers were. Like I said, I don't know if it was like 2,000 to 250 or if it was like 251 to 250. So let's see. Oh, watch the cat. Okay, so we're done with June, July. Oh, we got one for September 30th. Should we look at that? I'm going to peek and see what it says. Right now, if we had a
haven't
producer...
been making any predictions.
We got to get back to that. That's my fault. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah, that is kind of fun.
Oh, okay. No, we're going to wait till the end of September for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It says, will we be on the radio in 1 year? And so far, we're not, because we're short. But we haven't been on the radio.
I said no, right?
Yeah, you said no, and I said yes. I said we'll be on the radio somewhere. So we'll put that back away, because it said our first episode was September 30th of 2015. And so that was by September 30th of 2016, we would be on the radio somewhere. And so far, we're not. Ted's got a tear on his eye like the Indian.
Did Joe, was Joe part of that prediction or no?
Oh, I put it away. I didn't look. I was afraid to look because I don't think Joe did the first couple of episodes. Yeah. Since Joe's not here, we'll bash on him for a minute.
So Joe's sick and he's going to be listening to us.
You took a vacation day today. And then Joe got sick because he has 3 germ factories in his house. Is that correct?
That would be my guess.
Yes. So he was sick, and then you came in of your own volition.
Yeah, it's not, like I said, it's not Joe's fault.
Right.
I came in. Nobody asked me. I asked them if they needed me.
Right.
So you can't blame them.
Okay. I still blame them. I still blame the head man, the 400-pound bowl full of jelly. I'll still blame him.
And the ironic thing is that I think Joe's working tomorrow.
So he got today off, but he still has to work Labor Day. Does he have to work?
And I heard through somebody else that Joe said he didn't get any rest today anyway.
Well, yeah, because the kids were probably screaming the whole day, and his wife probably said, I'm exhausted, Joe. I know you're sick, but take care of the kids. So, like I said, Joe still has an excuse. Joe still has an excused absence for me. So,
poor Joe.
Poor Joe. But if he was here anyhow, he wouldn't want to hear it, because in his hometown, there was a hostage standoff 2 weeks ago. And I know he's afraid to come back on the air and talk about it. Because he knows I would pick on Brook Park.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hear it. He wants to make sure that episode is down the road and we're not going to dwell on that.
There was 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Yeah, standoff.
Well, I think I was right that one of your fine residents caused some problems.
Oh yeah, in North Ridgeville earlier this week, because it made national news. I want to say that it got picked up. It was a guy was 30 years old and he was from North Ridgeville and he had PTSD, and he drove through a light and he hit a woman and he jumped out of the car and then he shot her.
So, I don't know, why did he shoot her? It sounds like it was his fault.
It was his fault.
So he shot her because
She
was in the way?
because she was black and because she was in the way. At least that's the way they reported it.
Okay, she was black?
Yes, but if you're and this is what I'm confused
actually,
by.
and the only reason I asked that is because I heard her name was Debbie Pearl, right?
I don't remember.
And the only reason I wondered was I knew a Pearl,
Oh, okay.
and I'm like, oh man, I hope that wasn't.
No, the only reason I know is because the guy was from North Ridgeville, so it was in the local paper too. But for some reason, they were reporting that it was a hate crime. But if you're blaring down the road, right, and you run the red light, I can't imagine that you're targeting somebody. I would imagine that it's who you hit is random, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
I can't imagine that you're running the red light, and as you're running the red light, you're looking for the color of the driver. So I don't know if he hit her and then he was mad and then used a racial epithet, and then that's when they're like, oh, it was a hate crime. Because, again, he was at fault, and then he got out and shot her. So it sounds like whoever he got out, and again, I wasn't there, I'm just going by police reports and the news media, you race through the red light, you're not looking for anybody, you're just looking to hit somebody, right?
Yeah, I think they said it was the intersection of Solon and Richmond.
Yeah, it was in Solon, and it was, I remember because it was in Solon, on Solon.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if it was Solon and Richmond or not.
Yeah, I think that's what they said, and I'm trying to figure out where that is exactly. I mean, I know where Solon Road is, and I know where Richmond is, but I can't picture the intersection.
Right. Ted's stinking. There's steam coming.
I heard he was angry because he listened to a Beacon of Speech.
Don't blame that on... Yeah, we don't know who those 3 or 4 people in North Ridgeville are. So, but since we were talking so much about music today, do you want to do a song of the day, Ted Coley? Do you want to... I'll let you pick the song today. And our Cleveland Indians are still in first place. Beacon of Speech adopted the Cleveland Indians. I don't think we're going to adopt the Premier League team this year because Swansea City did so horrible last year. I felt like we were a curse. So we won't do a Premier League team.
Song of the day.
Yes.
I don't know. I'll let you pick it.
Thanks. Oh, you okay over there? My poor wife. See, as we're doing Beacon of Speech, I'm making her do all the work around the house. See what a bad husband I am.
It's funny because sometimes I'll think of songs to suggest,
Uh-huh.
but then when I'm here, I can't think of them.
Well, Ted, that's horrible. How about Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin?
All right, in honor of Jimmy Page remastering it for
Stairway
the
to- fair
21st time.
Do you want to talk about the Indians at all? That's our team. They're in first place. They swept the last place
Do
Twins.
we have Coco Crisp back?
We have Coco Crisp. Coco Crisp is awesome, Ted Coley. We traded. Do you remember talking about this on Beacon of Speech? We traded for the catcher of the Milwaukee Brewers. And he said, I do not want to come to Cleveland.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Coco Crisp was playing for the Oakland A's. We traded for Coco Crisp. He had a no-trade clause. He could only because he had 10 years in the major leagues, 5 years with the Oakland A's. Coco Crisp, do you want to come to the Cleveland Indians?
How How long has he been gone from here?
Oh, jeez. They said he left here, went to Boston.
Yeah.
Boston traded him to Oakland. He had been with Oakland for 5 years. So he had a no-trade clause with the 10 and 5 that he didn't have to come to Cleveland. And Cleveland was also one of the teams on his no-trade list. Like, there were a couple of teams that he said he would opt out for. Cleveland wasn't on the list, but he said that he won a World Series with Terry Francona in Boston, and he had good memories of the Indians when he was here in the early 2000s. He would waive the no-trade clause, and he would come back. So welcome back Coco Crisp. He wasn't an a-hole, and he volunteered to come back, and when he didn't have to. So apparently they worked some magic. They had some, good feelings with Coco Crisp. So, but yeah, so he's here for the playoff push. Even though the pitching's fallen off a little bit. I'm sorry, now the cat's trying to get out again. So Coco Crisp is coming back, and
Does she usually do that?
not very often, but if she wants to get out, she's pawing at the door and trying to get back out. But yeah, she's an inside cat. And as you can see, as fat as she is, she's an inside cat who is well fed. It's not like we don't feed the cat. So Ted's examining the exit routes for all the animals in the house. They're all trying to get out. It's like the Amityville house. All the animals are dying to get out. Amityville.
I never saw that movie.
Oh, in the Amityville horror, the dog crashed. It was so haunted, the dog crashed through the window.
I
Yeah.
think you have the wrong name.
Was it a different movie?
Yeah.
We're gonna look that up.
You said Cujo.
No, it wasn't Cujo. That's I'm gonna look that up. All right.
Was that a true story, Amityville?
Yes. Well, let's put it this way. It was based on a true story.
Yeah, I was always too afraid to watch that.
On that note,
still am.
the person who's too afraid to watch Amityville Horror is Ted Coley. I'm Fred Hunt, root for the Indians. Ted, you got anything else?
No.
We are out.